Hi everybody and welcome to Des and Lauren. Today we'll be discussing the Parkinson's law. I'm not sure if you've heard of it.
Yeah, well, it's a literal law, like you get Sod's law and many other laws of things or events or whatever. There's many of these things that come up, but this is actually official and can be tested. So you can actually verify that this Parkinson's law exists. And it exists in so many organizations around the world, doesn't it?
We'll explain to you what it is, but first, here's an example or a few. Apple pushed off the launch of their HomePod because they needed a little more time to refine it. Windows continuously delayed an anticipated feature for Windows 10 before quietly axing it altogether. Even construction of the Sydney Opera House was only supposed to take 4 years, but it ended up taking 14. Why does this happen? Why does team productivity and as a result your schedule run off the rails? Parkinson's law has a lot to do with it.
Well, absolutely. I understand this. I've been involved in many projects in the past, and it's incredible how things just grow and grow and grow. And they build on top of each other. Each person that's allowed to give an opinion or an input gets added to the mix, and sooner or later you get analysis paralysis, nothing gets done, and people actually lose focus of the initial goals that they had set.
And we actually have a solution. I don't know if you could call it a solution, but at least an opposing law. We haven't coined a term for it yet.
No.
But an opposing law that will underpin organizations and especially government going forward, and we'll discuss that at the end just a little bit. But here's some history. Parkinson's law is the observation that the duration of public administration, bureaucracy, and officialdom expands to fill its allotted time span, regardless of the amount of work to be done. This was attributed mainly to two factors. The officials want subordinates, not rivals, and that officials make work for each other.
This is really funny because you see this happening everywhere.
Yeah, committees, task teams being set up all the time to solve problems, never being necessary at all.
Yes, so please stick with us here. This is going to take a while to explain. So if you're not ready to watch this now, please make time to watch all of this. It'll reveal so much to you as to what is happening in the world.
When I came across this for the first time, I was so excited that there's an official name for something I've experienced for so many years. When I was involved in work with a local municipality, I coined the term for myself. Meetings are places where good ideas go to die. And people have meetings upon meetings upon meetings. They have meetings about meetings that are going to happen in the future. It's terrible how much time is wasted in the world. And time is probably the most precious thing that we have on earth, because we all have a finite amount of time on earth that we could be spending on much more productive or fruitful pursuits than bureaucracy and red tape. So, the history. Cyril Northcote Parkinson was articulated by Cyril Northcote Parkinson as part of the first sentence of an essay published in The Economist in 1955, and since republished online, it was reprinted with other essays in the book Parkinson's Law, The Pursuit of Progress. I'm going to go find that book. He derived the dictum from his extensive experience in the British Civil Service. So this has been around since 1955. Why haven't all organizations actually studied this intently?
Oh, goodness. Because they don't want to improve. Because they still want the subordinates. They want to control people. It's about power and control.
To put that simply, people want relevance. They want to
No, it's
relevant.
more than that. They actually want to control other people.
Yes.
Some people get kicks out of this. You know, the psychosis is really bad. And because people have this need to control other people, they create these monsters. And this happened in Britain for obvious reasons. And
There's a beautiful example which we can possibly cover. But I'd love to interject and ask for your input. What are some of the most boring, purposeless meetings you've ever been to? Share your experiences. Or any embarrassing moments in meetings, like nodding off, or dozing off, or doodling and losing track.
It is actually possible to do everything outside of meetings. And people will say, but this is not possible. Sometimes you need to get people around a table and just have it out. That's not a meeting. That's a round table where people sit around and they're literally debating things and ironing things out. A meeting with an agenda and minutes and all the rest is red tape. End of story.
I think you need team building. I think
Yeah.
a group of people need to know each other very well.
Get to know each other, absolutely.
And then you can have brainstorming sessions, which is not a meeting. Anything else can be done over email or phone.
Absolutely. If you want something verified or sorted out, speak to the individual and get the feedback. The fact that you sit in a meeting, and I chair many meetings where this happens, where you get feedback, where I know the outcome before the meeting starts, because I've already discussed everything with people. So it's bureaucracy, it's red tape, and it wastes everyone's time. And all the time spent in those meetings, and Parkinson's law isn't just about meetings, this is much bigger, so
Yes.
stick with us. Meetings is one of the big problems, that if you add the time up spent in meetings, you can lose literally months on a project.
I can imagine.
Months.
Yes. And this is very important to understand because we want to reshape not just the electoral system but governance as a whole.
In this country, in South
the entire
Africa.
country.
Yes.
And so we need to implement things that will do away with the tendency towards Parkinson's law. That is very important. The current form of the law is not the one to which Parkinson referred by that name in the article, but rather a mathematical equation describing the rate at which bureaucracies expand over time. Much of the essay is dedicated to a summary of purportedly scientific observations supporting the law, such as the increase in the number of employees at the colonial office, while
The colonial office.
colonial office, sorry,
Yeah.
my eyes, a colonial office while the British Empire declined. He showed that it had its greatest number of staff when it was folded into the Foreign Office due to a lack of colonies to administer. Isn't that interesting? And this reminds me so much of government that just gets bigger and bigger and more expensive, and it's us, the taxpayers, that suffer in the end.
Well, it's no different to big organizations that's affiliated to government. All the big corporations, you know, if you look at the rail services, if you look at ESCOM, if you look at many of these companies, you will see they are all overstaffed, all of them. And you can't say, but we are providing jobs. It's not government's job to provide jobs.
Not at
It's
all.
government's job to create an environment where business can flourish, an open market. That is what they should do. And this is where socialist governments and communist governments come in. They want subjects, they want to control.
Absolutely.
Where open and free market is very different. And don't bring capitalism into that, because that's a very different thing. Open and free market is where people can explore, where they can experience, and people can choose who to support and who not to support.
So it gets interesting. He explained this growth.
So this is scientific.
It is scientific.
This is not something that just falls out the sky. We can actually
There's-
prove this.
There's an equation, people. He explained this growth using two forces. One, an official wants to multiply subordinates, not rivals. Now, this is fascinating because rivals is what keeps you accountable. I think having healthy debate and having healthy competition is very good. And we live in an environment where people want to hold on to power and not challenge their power in any way. If officials and presidential candidates in the future system and public representatives in this system or the next actually have to debate with rivals and actually be held accountable by each other because they're all vying for the same position, you'd have a much better outcome than what we have now, where parties protect candidates.
I've actually seen this in action.
Yes.
At Koeberg Nuclear Power Station, where the deputy power station manager at the time, who also administered the cricket club back then, and he was an awesome person, I got along with him famously, but he was also the head of engineering, and he said he needed a certain amount of engineers under him, more subordinates,
Okay.
to get a better retirement.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of this is due to credit you would get, your status,
Yes.
because of the amount of subordinates that you have. And he achieved that in his lifetime, actually. This is Parkinson's law at its best, and this is happening throughout Eskom, throughout Sanral, throughout all these other government entities. It happened at the post office. It happened everywhere, where, especially under the apartheid government, it was a massive thing to just grow and grow and grow things. And when our new governance system took over in 1994, the same thing happened. It just continued.
And it's continuing.
Oh,
and it's funny
unbelievable.
because in the media you always read that there's a shortage of teachers and a shortage of nurses and a shortage of social workers. And those never seem to be filled, yet unnecessary positions are always being created and expanded upon. And this goes into the second force. Officials make work for each other, plain and simple. And we've seen this in government with all the task teams and committees that are always coming up to solve problems that they probably are the cause of in the first place.
And then, like with the Zondo Commission report, government has no obligation to implement it. And the Speaker of the House actually says that, of Parliament, says, but we don't have to do this. The President of the country says it too. No, we don't have to implement any of this. There's no obligation. But we just spent over R1 billion doing this.
Just threw it away.
Just to make everyone feel good at the time, I suppose.
So Cyril Northcote Parkinson noted that the number of employed in the bureaucracy rose by 5 to 7% per year, irrespective of any variation in the amount of work, if any, to be done. Shocking.
I think our government looks at the tax that comes in and they say, but we want all of that. We don't want to spend anything on the people of South Africa. We spend it on the people by employing more people into government because at the moment we're only getting 20% of the tax is returning for services. And that is actually what's happening. That's why they cannot maintain the water infrastructure. That's why they cannot build more power stations. Well, that's why they can't do any of these things. If you look at the mindset, when I joined Eskom, we were just over 800 permanent staff at Koeberg Nuclear Power Station. There's over 2,000 now. They said we need to reduce it to 500. We actually had to motivate. This was under John Maria. He said, motivate why your job should be there, why it should exist. And I'll never forget that because I just started. I was just permanently employed.
Oh my goodness.
And here, our shift manager calls us in and says, all of you need to write a motivation letter for your job. It's a requirement. And I found that fascinating that there was someone with a foresight in John Maria at the time to say, we need to bring down the amount of people working within this organization. We don't need this many people. He was doing the exact opposite. And now, at the moment, that would be absolutely frowned upon.
Unfortunately, I think we have a tendency to see government as a form of employment, and that needs to change. That mindset needs to change.
That has to
The
change.
smaller government is, the freer the economy will be. And that is what will give people the prosperity that they are after, not government jobs. So government should focus purely on becoming smaller and less relevant over time. And that's how you free people and liberate people to find their own wealth and success in life.
Imagine that government was 20% of every tax rand instead of 80%. Okay, that is government and debt that they incur.
Yes,
okay?
exactly.
So I still include it as government. Imagine it was the other way around, how much money would be available for services. So we are not a poor country in South Africa. Our taxpayers' money is not administered correctly. And SARS, I would be one of the first places where I would cut down like you cannot believe.
Definitely.
Because if you stop the attitude of micro-policing, people will freely pay tax. And we will have plenty to go around. It is the size of the government, the way that it works, that is the biggest guzzler of the wealth of the country.
And knowing your tax is not helping people in need is probably the most devastating blow to any taxpayer out there, no matter how little or how much your tax is. Knowing that it's actually not going towards helping people, it's going towards bloating the government further.
Well, the biggest white elephant at the moment is our government in the country. They are the biggest leech, blood-sucking leech out of everything that we have for the fiscus, the government itself.
Yes. Let's carry on here. There's a few quotes from other people about this law, and it just explains the law further. Please comment if you relate to this in any way. If you wait until the last minute, it only takes a minute to do. And another person who wrote about Parkinson's law actually spoke about deadlines and how deadlines...
That is beautiful. I love this.
Deadlines are contrary to being productive because you will wait till the last minute. You might have a deadline to finish something in 6 months that you could do in 6 weeks. And this goes hand in hand with Parkinson's law. Someone else says here...
Because in the end, you do it in a short period of time, so you could have done it a long time ago.
Work contracts to fit in the time we give it. I'll just
Absolutely
make that
correctly, yeah. Think about that.
In 10 hours a day, you have time to fall twice as far behind your commitments as in 5 hours a day. So that's saying if you have more time to do something, you're still going to fall behind and wait till the last minute. And then data expands to fill the space available for storage. And I think this is very beautiful. It makes me feel so reassured that I made the right decision to create OHM in a completely different way.
The Organic Humanity Movement, for those of you that are not that are new.
Yes, I'm the founder and leader of the Organic Humanity Movement. We do things very differently internally, and it's because I made these observances when I worked for local government and when I worked in politics.
You didn't need the law.
No, it was terrible. I was so frustrated. It's so much time wasting. And it's nice to see that someone has eloquently described this in a literal scientific law.
A long time ago.
And
it's provable. So I'm sure in the comments, many of you can tell us how you're experiencing Parkinson's law at work, wherever you are, where you work, and tell us in the comments. Lawrence started an organization which was a good and perfect example of the opposite of Parkinson's law, the hashtag Leave Our Kids Alone movement, which had huge success. And tell us how many people approached you to try and start this Parkinson's law nightmare on Leave Our Kids Alone.
I started Leave Our Kids Alone to oppose a very specific thing in the education system. And I always saw it as a Facebook movement. I started it as a Facebook movement, and I never intended it to be anything but. And there was a lot of organization that took place. I did a lot of work. I probably took on too much work on my own. I could have delegated a little bit.
You were permanently busy for 2 months.
We basically had a WhatsApp group for every municipality. When I say we, I mean I. And we were able to coordinate civil action across the country on the same day, more or less the same time, doing more or less the same thing.
In 50 different venues.
In 50 different municipalities. It was a wonderful, amazing success, and I'd love to expand on that success with OHM in the future when it comes to system change. But in that process, as the group grew from 0 to 100,000 members, lots of people obviously saw opportunity here, and I was approached by a few people to start a board and make this a formal organization so we can ask for fundraising.
Didn't they say the money will roll in once you do that?
Indeed they did, and then I'd obviously employed them that suggested it to me, etc. And luckily I had the discernment to send them packing, because I knew the most important thing would be achieving the goal, not sitting in a board waiting for 10, 20 people to make a decision on something before we can move forward. That is ridiculous. I hate those kind of meetings. I absolutely despise that kind of red tape that's involved. So I said no. I got the phone call to ask and beg and plead for this formal organization.
There were a couple of those.
And I just said no. I just stood my ground, because I had been involved in politics at that time. And I knew how meetings and boards and committees and task teams are where everything goes to die. All productivity and all progress, all success will go to die in such organizations.
And at the end of the day, hashtag Leave Our Kids Alone had success.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was successful. One of the few things in South Africa where people across the country work together from all backgrounds, creeds, etc., working together for one goal. And because of that, it was a success. And you have over 130,000 people on the hashtag Leave Our Kids Alone Facebook group, and they're still there, waiting for the next battle.
And a battle's coming, believe me, it's coming, and I'll post about it closer to the time.
So everything Laura and I do, we do on our own. And you should do things on your own too. We need self-empowerment.
That's so important. So all people have the right and freedom to pursue their ideas. So I had an idea to start Leave Our Kids Alone. I pursued it. People saw the merit of it and helped me. And you can see other people's ideas that have merit and help them, and so on. And if we do that for each other, you don't have to pledge allegiance to an organization. You don't have to join something necessarily. But you can expend your time and energy helping an idea you believe is fruitful. And if we all do that continuously, we'll do away with this Parkinson's law.
Yes, absolutely. And within Omega, for instance, there's no formal organization. No. There's just training. The training is for free for the public and for Organic Humanity Movement members. And there you have a formal organization, because it has to be registered with the IEC, so you can contest the elections.
Yes, and all the admin around the IEC is so painful. Oh my goodness. Just to be legitimate, registered as a legitimate political party, the paperwork, the admin, the auditing, it's necessary for transparency to a degree, but it's a lot.
But you'll be able to vote in 2024 for a movement that will change the system away from Parkinson's law I mean, that mindset has to change.
It subverts my time, because
Yes,
when I could be doing
absolutely.
actual real work, I have to do this submit this paper, go to that meeting, etc. And it's a complete waste of time. I hate it. And it's just one of those painful things until we change the system.
So individuals help out in their own capacity when they see fit. And this is how we have to change things. So it is about individuals.
Yes, and if you want to do something, do it now. Don't put it off. Often if you keep putting off something, you're not going to do it in the end. So deadlines aren't even necessary. If you see something has to be done, if there's a void, fill that void. It's that simple. Yes, and then someone actually did a tweet on this, a long tweet.
Yes.
And this, he just summarizes it beautifully. I can't remember his name. I don't have his name here. He was referring to Twitter and how Twitter has fired a whole lot of people.
Elon Musk fired a whole lot of people, yeah.
Parkinson's law is the idea that the work will generally expand to the amount of time, budget, and number of people allocated to it. And no matter how many people you allocate to it, those people will always feel busy.
I know people that are very good at looking busy.
Absolutely.
I need very little time to get the things done that needs to be done. And to me, spending time and clocking in and clocking out just for time register is the worst thing you can do to humanity.
It is.
If you can go somewhere and do something within 4 to 5 focused hours, then that is what should happen. The fact that you should just be there like a sod on a timesheet is really backwards, and it's part of the Parkinson's law mentality that these people need to be on a ticket. You clock in, you clock out. It's life destroying.
You're a subordinate
Yes,
to
yeah.
an official who feels important.
Exactly. Unfortunately for anyone out there, I cannot be managed in this way, never will be. The day I decided that ended was the last time anyone else could manage me. So I manage myself, and you do the same. And that makes us different. So it doesn't mean that we can't work in other environments, but the laws that we set out for ourselves that govern us, people need to decide if they're willing to live with that or not.
I think you can't talk about this without talking about work ethic, which
Yes.
is something that has deteriorated over generations. I suppose it's because of how...
You don't need work ethic with
No.
Implementing this Parkinson's
No,
law.
if you just clock in, clock out worker, you don't need work ethic. But if everyone has work ethic, everyone, then you don't have to micromanage people. You
Not
don't
at
have to
all.
have people over you telling you to do your job better. And I think when you talk, this guy's talking about time, budget, number of people, I can't imagine any committee, any organization, any NGO, any government office or any local municipality saying, oh, we don't need this much budget, we need less. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I think the next bit where he gives an example of a report
Yes.
is really awesome to end off
This
on.
is beautiful. So we'll
Yeah.
end with this example. Let us know in your work or life, do you experience Parkinson's law in any way, and how do you feel about it? We'll end with this example. Let's say you have a report due in a week. The report might only take you around 5 hours to finish if you really focus and work efficiently. However, because you know you have a week to complete it, you might find yourself spending a lot more time on it than you need to. You'll be more prone to distractions, take longer breaks, or perhaps decide to add more details, tables, graphs, and so forth. Essentially, the task becomes more complex and time-consuming purely because you have more time in which to do it. And here's how it manifests across organizations. Imagine a big tech company, a social media company with various departments. Each department has a task that it must complete to contribute to the overall productivity of the company. Now suppose each department is given a budget and a set amount of time to complete its tasks for the year. According to Parkinson's law, each department will use its entire budget and the entire allotted time, even if the tasks could have been completed more efficiently. This is because as resources and time increase, departments tend to become more complex and less efficient.
And that is the crux
That is.
at the end of the day. You know, many times people have to go on leave. And when people go on leave, those that stay behind, you think to yourself, they're doing all the work. At that stage, I remember when I was a shift worker at night, when everyone went home, there were very few cars in the parking lot. And
Yes.
everything was still, the primary business was still being done. The megawatts was being sent out onto the grid. And you have to ask yourself, do you need that many other people to keep that going? Or can you have core people, the absolute minimum to do that work? And because of Parkinson's law, things just get more and more bloated, and it will never stop. It just carries on and on.
Definitely. And in government, we definitely have to look at this. We, with the organic humanity movement, have a philosophy that over time government has to, it's a mandate, must become less and less relevant over time. And that is what will give people maximum freedom. So government offices actually have to get smaller. The amount of people employed has to get less. The amount of people, the amount of tax that are required from people has to get less over time. Until you have a society where government almost is completely not needed at all.
Because the people can govern themselves.
Yes, and I find this an idealistic stretch, because I do feel that government in some shape or form will always be necessary, because there are those that will choose to harm others, will actually make that choice, not by accident, but by choice to harm others. And that's why you do need government. As long as you have people that are willing to make those decisions, to be evil, to be bad, you need government. And I think that will always be in humanity.
But it's a small percentage, maybe 1 in 100 that inherently wants to be evil or bad. It's a small minority of people.
But you can take this law to any SOE, any government department, any organization or NGO, political party even, and the solution will be to get smaller, not bigger, and to be more resourceful with what they have, not expect more resources, more budget, more time, etc.
So does your company suffer from Parkinson's law? Tell us in the comments. If whoever you work for, or your own company, if you suffer from this, are you a person that try and take everything on yourself? Because you do get the opposite as well.
Yes.
We tend to fall into that category.
Which can be equally as unproductive.
So there needs to be a midway, and so we do need help. We need your help to like this video. We need your help to share this content, to share the content we put out on this channel. This channel is targeted daily. There are people reporting our videos left, right and center. There are people disliking our videos instantly to try and stop the algorithm from promoting them. So we need your help to like the videos fast as possible, to share this content and talk about these things. Speak to your family about it, your friends about it.
Oh, definitely, yes. And this thought just came to my head. I'm so sorry. We're putting this video out around lunchtime. I'd love to know in the comments, if you got this far in the video, what did you have for lunch?
Yes. Lauren always does that.
Lunch.
So most of the comments will be lunch related comments. I would come to a video afterwards and see what are these comments people are giving, and it's some question that Lauren popped in.
So please let us know what you had for lunch. I need ideas.
I'm actually not interested in what you had for lunch, but Lauren is, so yeah, tell Lauren what you had for lunch. I haven't had lunch yet.
No, exactly.
So what are we going to have for lunch?
We'll read the comments and decide.
We'll read the comments and then we'll decide. So please tell us what you had for lunch, and we might make good on that ourselves. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.